Good day, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are returning, for those of you who are new, welcome, and welcome to everybody. I'm your host, Holly Poole. I'm the astrologer and healthyologist, and today we're going to spend our time talking about the new moon, which will be here on March 10th. So let me share my screen so we can actually get a visual picture of this new moon. The new moon is going to be at 20 degrees Pisces. I don't think this new moon is anything of big hoopla and hurrah going on with this new moon, even though the title I'm using for this new moon is Show Them What You Got. And there's a couple of reasons as to why I've used that title. First of all, we have uh, there are no planets that are retrograding. We do have a couple of asteroid goddesses that are retrograding, um, but they too, three of them actually, but they too will also change within the next month or so. And so it's the planets that we're actually looking at when we sort of take a close look at the new moon. The other interesting thing with this new moon is also that there are no oppositions to this new moon. When we talk in astrology, and I teach this in beginners, when we talk about oppositions, we have oppositions in our chart. We have planets in our chart, and say one sign is here and straight across from it is an exact another planet. We are always so feeling like we are pulled in opposite directions. We're not experiencing that with this new moon. Yes, when you look at it, you can see that there's an opposition. This is Black Moon Lilith, which is not a planet. And this is the asteroid goddess Juno, which is also not a planet. So we don't have any oppositions. Another reason why I said, show them what you got. There's nothing standing in your way. Also, there are no planets that are out of bounds at this particular point in time with this new moon. Everything is still within the boundary line, the declination boundary line of the sun. So again, we don't have a stoppage there. And by the time we get to the new moon, which it will be around 6:08 p.m. in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada time, so you can figure out on your own time zone. We are in Atlantic Canada time. We are 1 hour ahead of the Eastern Standard Time. So if you're trying to figure out an exactness, that's how you figure it out. This is the new moon. Of course, the sun and the moon holding the exact same alignment, the exact same degree, and that's at 20 degrees Pisces. So if you are born around the 10th of March, giving you the sign of Pisces, or you're born around the 10th of June, making you a Gemini, or the 10th of September, or the 10th of December. You're going to find that you're very affected by this particular new moon. Pisces is an interesting new moon, and I'll talk a lot more about the Piscean energy when I actually get to the solar eclipse, which we'll have in April. Yes, I realize that will not be in the sign of Pisces, but there will be a specific reason as to why I will be zeroing in at that point in time. When you look at the actual new moon, the sun and moon at 20 degrees, you will see that the sign of Saturn is kind of sitting by the side of it. Now that's a 9-degree orb. 11 plus 9 give you 20. That's a 9-degree orb. I work at best with a 7-degree orb. And I do realize that there's lots of different choices that different astrologers choose to use for their orb. Excuse me, but for the comfortable orb, for me, it's 7 degrees. So for me, Saturn is too far away to really be creating a big, huge issue for the new moon. I do have Neptune within 7 degrees, right? 27 minus 20 gives you 7. So Neptune is sort of on that very outer rim of that new moon orb, according to the way I do it with 7 degrees. And in modern times, Neptune is the ruler of the sign of Pisces, whereas in ancient times or traditional astrology, Jupiter was the sign that ruled Pisces before Neptune got discovered. You know, it's almost kind of like, oh, well, we've just now discovered a new planet, Neptune. What are we going to have Neptune rule? And I think they made a brilliant choice when they gave Neptune to the sign of Pisces. Why? Pisces are the dreamers in the zodiac. They are our creative individuals. They are people who can mutate. They're called a mutable sign. They can mutate into whatever it is that we need them to mutate into. Lots of actors and actresses are Pisces. They're also amazing artists. They have a huge creative side to them. And so I think this new moon is also asking us to step out into that creative side. I'd love for people to tell me, what art type project are you starting around that new moon? And just like I've talked about in my other videos about the fact of starting an energy around a new moon is absolutely fabulous. Let's think of some ideas. Well, let's say, for instance, you are deciding as an art project, good luck with this, as an art project, I think I'm going to paint the inside of my home, the interior of my home. The thing to do on that new moon day is go out and get paint swabs. You know, start the project. You don't have to physically buy your paint and get painting on the walls to have started the energy vibration. Just go pick up your paint swabs or sit down with a bit of a plan. You know, my living room is here, my dining room's here, my kitchen's here, my hallway is here. I think I'm going to paint my, kitchen orange. I'm going to paint this purple. I'm going to paint this green. I'm going to paint this blue. Whatever you choose to do, but look at it as an artistic type project to do. That's one of the things you can do. Secondly, if you are going to start gardening this year, you want to sit down and do a little bit of a plan. This part of the garden here gets a ton of afternoon sun. You're going to grow something on that part of the garden where you get absolute full sun, as opposed to somewhere on this side of the garden, maybe it's complete shade over here and would be better off with hostas or some other type plants that can deal with shade versus over here in the full sun and what it is that you want to put over there, which is sun-loving plants per se. It's another thing to do on that particular day as an artistic type project. Or maybe you want to learn a musical piece, or maybe you and somebody else is talking about going to put on a musical type concert of some kind. All right, so we need to get together and we need to decide what songs, what music we are going to be offering. So this new moon is very artistically, creatively wonderful for starting the vibration of some creative type project. Now, I mentioned our other mutable friends. If you are born roughly around and is a Virgo, and you're born about roughly around that 10th of September time period, you're actually dealing with Black Moon Lilith. And one of the things when I would have just talked about, painting the house or doing the garden, or Black Moon Lilith is saying, the Virgo people are going, oh, but how could I have it be in such a perfect order? That's Black Moon Lilith. You need to push her aside and say, when I do the very bestest that I can do, that is my perfection. Because a Virgo is never ever going to reach their perfection. They're always going to move that goalpost. So stop it. Stop doing that. Don't let Black Moon Lilith take control. Also, Juno is sitting roughly in that area. Now, that would be for people more around the 7/8 area of September. Juno is sitting there. You're looking for a partner. You're looking for a partner to come in and do that with you. You're saying, oh, well, I know I'm going to be painting my house, and I know Sally's going to be painting her house, and Joan's going to be painting her house, and maybe we can all get together and look at paint colors. And it's opposing this new moon. The asteroid goddess Juno is all about partners and looking for partners and getting people, kind of involved in what it is that you are wanting to do. Our Gemini and our Sagittarius friends have a square to this Pisces new moon. And so again, people born around that 10th of June and around that 10th of December area. So there's the reason with squares in our life, squares create annoyances. And my students doing beginner astrology with me, when I say, and now we have a square, and they all trumpet, we don't like squares. Yes, squares create annoyances. It does not mean we cannot work our way past it. What it means is that the original thought process that we actually thought was going to get us from point A to point B, we might have to rethink it a bit. We have to back up, and look at it through a broader picture. And sometimes when I'm trying to make a decision, because in my own personal chart, I know I have 5 fixed planets. I know that quite often I see life through here. And if you are somebody in life that have a fair number of fixed planets, trust me, that is also how you see life. And so I know that about my chart. I know that that will never change. Our chart is who we are. But what we have to do is learn how to work with what it is that we pre-wrote. So I pre-wrote that. Obviously, I felt I needed it for some particular reason. Who knows what? Although I can see where that's worked very well for me throughout life. But what it is we have to be very conscious that that is what we do. So we say, if I were to take down those walls, now what are the broader picture that I am seeing? And I invite all my Gemini and Sagittarius friends to do that. We do have a little bit of a hiccup in the new moon, and that is the square that's going on up here in the heavens between Mars and Uranus. Yep, that is a square. And what that is doing, it is bringing inclement weather to everybody. Who ever heard of the massive snowstorms happening in California? Who ever heard of, the massive snowstorms this time of the year happening out west, Canadian-wise? So it brings in inclement weather. That is under the umbrella of astrometeorology. I am not an astrometeorologist. I do not know a whole lot of looking up at the planets and predicting the weather. But what you may not know is that is how the Farmer's Almanac gets done a year in advance. That is one of their tools that they actually use, is to use the planetary alignment. Because just think about this. They often are sent out a year in advance. So how would you have any idea? Right now we're sitting in March. How would you have any idea what next February, March was going to look like? Unless you had some kind of tools. And the astrological alignment of the planets is one of the tools that they use. When we have Mars and Uranus in some kind of an aspect up here on the world stage, in some kind of an aspect, we always have unpredictable Uranus, unpredictable, aggressive Mars type weather that is very, very hard to predict. On my Facebook page the other day, I wrote, we've just started with a square between Uranus and Mars. Expect sun in the morning, snow in the afternoon, lunchtime, sun in the afternoon, a relatively warm, calm night, maybe. That's Uranus. It can change in a heartbeat. So this is where we come in. Now, one of the things I always do as well, say that weather patterns will change at a new moon and a full moon. I'm always very interested in seeing what a new moon weather is like through that day, because generally we got it for a couple of weeks. Well, right now, I know that through this new moon, we have that square between Mars and Uranus. So for the next couple of weeks, we've got that inclement weather going on. We do have Uranus creating a sextile. We like sextiles. My students will say, we like sextiles, Holly. Yeah, that's right, we do. And if you watch my channel enough, you guys will get into the same mode. That's a sextile here, and we like sextiles. So Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. But you see, Taurus is relatively close to that Mars. Yeah, there's an 8-degree, and I said I only do 7, and that is correct. But she's sort of a bit under that influence. And Venus don't really like being in Aquarius. Aquarius is a bit of a too cold of an energy for Venus. Venus likes, hugs and kisses and holding, and Aquarius just sometimes can have a very remote feel to them. So she don't particularly like it there. So I suspect for the next 2 weeks, which is unfortunate because I'm sitting in Nova Scotia, Canada, and I'm just fiddling through some seed catalogs, which is probably not going to be anytime soon. But hey, we can dream. And that's what the sign of Pisces is. Show them what you got. Show them your dreams. Mercury has moved into the sign of Aries. Now we're going to see Mercury go through the sign of Aries the whole way through the month of March, for the rest of March. And even coming into the very beginning part of April, we're going to see Mercury start to retrograde. So Mercury has not entered its shadow yet. It won't be in its shadow until it gets to 13 degrees, so another couple of weeks, sort of. But Mercury is moving very quickly right now. And we're going to see when we get to roughly around that 1st of April, the sun is going to go, yeah, not so much, Mercury. You are not, getting too far away out of my orb, and will cause Mercury to retrograde. But for right now, Mercury is like this child that's on a bit of a leash, and mom, the sun with the moon over here is probably looking at some artistic picture painting, and Mercury is thinking, well, I can edge away. Mercury also brings me to show them what you got, because Mercury in that Aries is straight ahead. Aries is the first fire sign. Aries is the person, outside of the pack. Let's get going. Let's get moving. Let's get started. And let's move our way along. So that's where the new moon is. We do have Jupiter and Uranus. They've just moved within that 7-degree orb. You're going to start to find there's a lot of information that's going to come forward on the world stage around the whole banking industry. Taurus in mundane astrology, which has to do with government astrology and world astrology, is all about the banking industry and the farming industry. So with Jupiter and Uranus coming together, there's a lot of things that's going to come about, a lot of suggestions, a lot of opportunities. Jupiter is our planet of benefit. It's beneficial to us. So that will be interesting. And when we get into April, I'll actually talk a lot more about that. Jupiter will get to align with Uranus later part of April. So as we move our way along, by the time we get to the 11th, but more than anything else, by the time we get to the 12th, so the day of the late day of the 11th and coming into the 12th should be very interesting, because the moon, let me back up here for a day. The moon later in that day on the 11th will come and sort of join in and sit directly with the North Node. And there will be a big discussion going on there. The discussion will actually be very much about the fact of where are we going from here? How are we actually going to manage to get there? And how are you going to want to work your way towards it? Then within a couple of hours of that, it's almost like the moon flips switches and it gets to Chiron. Chiron's going to play a very, very big part when we get to that solar eclipse on the 8th of April. I'll talk a lot more about Chiron then. But the moon will then get directly to line up with Chiron and will be out of the orb by the time we get to the 12th. So the evening of the 11th should prove to be extremely interesting, because we'll go from where is my forward planning here to Chiron saying, well, are we actually able to do that, do you think? So there's a little bit of indecision that then comes. So if you're having the conversation with someone, where are we, maybe as a couple, where are we going? Nail that down, because later in the day, there will be a bit of a, is that really what we want to do? As we get to the 13th, let's actually go to the 14th. That's also another interesting day, because on the 14th, we now have the moon in kind of between Jupiter and Uranus. For those of you who watch the news about world stage, money markets, check it out on the 14th of March. because on that 14th of March, that will be some very big discussions. There will be big, huge decisions. And there's probably going to be a discovery. I can draw a line from that moon going through Taurus. I can draw a line with black moon Lilith. That is creating a trine. My students say, we like trines, Holly, don't we? Yes, we do like trines. And it creates a trine over here with the asteroid goddess Ceres. Ceres is about claiming what is rightfully mine. So there will be information. There will be perhaps the discussion about money laundering somewhere that people may find to have a bit of a surprise. And then it will be, people will want to claim back that actual money and finances. Then as we move our way along, one of the things we now see is that the sun is getting closer to Neptune. Venus actually moved into Pisces here on the 11th. Venus loves being in Pisces. Venus is much happier in Pisces. She's exalted in Pisces. It gives her the ability to be creative. It gives her the ability to dress up. It gives her the ability to put together creative ideas. Venus likes to dress in teals and light blues and pale greens, and Venus loves to be in the sign. But as you can see, we still have that square between Mars and Uranus. So right now we're at the 15th of March. We still have that inclement weather, that unexpected, who knows what tomorrow's going to bring type weather. Then when we get to the 17th of March, now, of course, the big thing is Neptune is sitting in the heart of the sun. Neptune and the sun are at the exact same degree. And that will be very interesting for people born around that 17th of March, because you've got Neptune sitting near your sun sign right now. And Neptune, remember, is the modern ruler of Pisces. So Neptune is loving it here. Neptune is singing a great big huge tune. We do have the first quarter moon. So the moon has moved past that new stage and moved on where she's in the first quarter moon stage. And that'll also be interesting because the moon here sits at 29 degrees. 29 degrees. That's a very karmic degree. So recognize that there is probably some very karmic type conversations. You will probably be feeling a very past life. For those of you who do past life meditations, this would be a wonderful evening to actually do that. Then we get to the 19th. And of course, now we're coming into the spring equinox. And the spring equinox is going to be when the sun enters the sign of Aries. On the 19th, she's still sitting here at 29 degrees. Remember, that's a very karmic degree. This is also a very emotional conversation type of a day. The moon will have moved to the sign of Cancer, which is a water sign, and is creating a trine. Yep, we like trines, but is creating a trine with both Neptune and the sun. And so there's a very heartfelt communication type of a day. There's a very nurturing type of a day that happens. There's a very connection with our home. it's a lovely night to actually plan a wonderful dinner and stuff with your family, and to sit around and have full conversations there, because Mercury is also connected here with North Node. So there's lots of conversations. Where are we as a group going as we are moving our way forward? Then we get to spring equinox, which is the 20th of March. And that will be at 6:08 a.m. In Halifax, Nova Scotia time. So it may be on the 19th if you are at a different time zone. If you are in European time zone, England, European time zone, it's likely that it will be much earlier in the AM. It would be very early hours. I think you are 5 hours ahead of Nova Scotia. So it would be like 1, 2 in the morning. And the sun moving in, it's actually called the Aries bloom point. It's a very wonderful timing to take a strong look. It will be very igniting of that Pluto in Aquarius, simply because, we talked about Pluto in Aquarius. It's entered in, it's gone back. It's entered in, it's gone back. It will later in October, November, go back into Capricorn, and then it'll turn around and come out for the last time. But this sun is very much the igniting of humanistic type ideas, humanitarian type work. You will hear for sure on the world stage about the humanitarian type work that needs to take place. And it's the international, it's considered the astrological new year when the sun enters the first cardinal sign, the sign of Aries. That is really the beginning of the year in its way of moving forward. So it's a very big day of celebration. It is creating a trine. Yep, we like trines. It's creating a trine with the moon. The moon is sitting in the sign of Leo, which is all about love, all about the sending out of love, the shining of the love. When we get to the 21st of March, now we've got Mercury and Chiron. And this is a full discussion. It's also creating a trine with the moon. And you will start to hear people watch your Facebook feed that day on the 21st, where people will say, the way to fix everything is going to be through love. Send out peace. That is huge. I'm not saying they're not right. What I'm saying is that is because planetary-wise, they will be very connected with the fact of that moon lining up with Chiron. Now, you can see if you go by that 7-degree orb that I talk about, I'm looking forward to spring starting here. Why? Because Mars has now come out of orb with Uranus. Again, remember, I personally use 7 degrees. Some astrologers use 10. So if that's the case, then we're not out of the orb. But in my case, I do use 7 degrees. And by the time we actually get to the 21st of March, Venus and Saturn has come together. Now they're sort of cozied up together. This is a time for those of you who play with your angel cards, who use your intuition. Pisces is the most intuitive sign in the whole entire zodiac. This is a huge day to actually pull out your angel cards and just shuffle them and say, what is the message from my angels today? And just pull one card. That's it, just one card. People, I think, get too involved with pulling 3, 4, 5 cards, and then they don't know what it's about and they don't know what it all means. It's just too confusing. The angels can get their messages across to you with one card and one card only. Use that day to do that. Now, you can see by the time we get here, Jupiter is getting closer to Uranus. And the closer planets get, the more realistic they become directly on the world stage. And now we actually get to the 22nd of March, and the moon is coming. Now the moon is going to travel through and have a little conversation with Juno, the asteroid goddess of partnerships and relationships. Juno was once married to Jupiter, the planet of expansion. And then later, the next day, the moon will come to line up and have a conversation with Black Moon Lilith. You can see that Venus and Saturn are sitting in the same chair on that day of the 22nd. They both sit at 12 degrees Pisces. So again, those people born on, as I talked about a little bit earlier, now we've got uh, our Venus and Saturn sitting together, having a very lovely, nice conversation, having tea together. The moon is, sorry, not the moon, Mars. Mars is finishing off its journey through the sign of Aquarius, and it's been very aggressive through Aquarius, Let's get it on. Come on now, let's get it on. Mars will then transition into the sign of Pisces, and Pisces doesn't do that well with Mars. Mars don't particularly like going through the sign of Pisces because Pisces kind of laid back. Pisces is a mutable sign. Pisces likes to take her time. She likes to be creative. And when Mars is going through Pisces, Mars has to play the tune of Pisces. Mars cannot force Pisces into doing anything quickly, fast. So Mars has to cool its edges. Mars moves into Pisces on the 23rd of March. And of course, now by the time we are coming to here, we're coming into our very first lunar eclipse, and that's going to be on the 25th. That lunar eclipse will be at 5 degrees Libra. So we're on the 23rd of March. That means that the sun will have to get to 5 degrees Aries, and the moon will have to get to 5 degrees Libra. On the 23rd, so we're 2 days out of it, you're already going to start to be feeling this vibrational pull of this lunar eclipse. And by the time we get to the 24th, the sun is almost there. She's not quite there yet. The moon hasn't reached into Libra, so the moon still has quite a bit of a pathway to go. And so I will leave us here at this particular point in time. When we start on the next video, I will actually then start on the lunar eclipse. I'll talk a lot about eclipses. There's a lot of huge information. There's a lot of wars that have stopped because of ecliptic energy that have gone on. Thank you very much for spending your time and hanging out with me and looking at the planetary alignment. If you haven't already, please subscribe down here and hit the bell right there for a notification. Have a fantastic day. Have a wonderful new moon. Make it work for you, and I'll see you at the full moon. Take care.